I watch the finish of every UCI race from like 1 up. I'll watch the last 5-10Ks, include like even the races I kind of make fun of sometimes. I'll actually, because I'm a degenerate, watch every single finish. And so that has a big advantage because there's not actually that many people watching every race. And so you'd be like, I know these tendencies. I know what he's good at. This climb's too hard for him. So you can build up like competitor profiles of specific riders that teams are going against. And also I can build up videos of every single attack a rider has done in their entire career and have that on video.
You're listening to Choose the Hard Way with Andrew Vance. My guest shares stories about how hard things build stronger humans. Please subscribe and hit 5 stars wherever you listen, and share this episode with a friend who enjoys doing hard things. As you might know, I also co-host the Beyond the Peloton podcast with Spencer Martin. It's like the Ringer for pro cycling, a show where we discuss the business, culture, strategy, and tactics of professional cycling. Today, I'm sharing a special Beyond the Peloton by Choose the Hard Way interview with Lanterne Rouge, aka Patrick Broe. Patrick and his business and creative partner Benji Nason have turned Lanterne Rouge into one of the biggest and most highly regarded pro cycling commentary and analysis podcasts and YouTube channels. They also work as strategic consultants for Jumbo-Visma, the best team in pro cycling and the winners of the 2022 Tour de France. Patrick practiced law before shifting his focus to pro cycling analysis and commentary. He's taken a look at thousands of hours of pro cycling race finishes and has unique insights into high-performance team dynamics and what it takes to win at the highest levels of sport. If you're new to Choose the Hard Way, I've spent more than 25 years telling and shaping the stories of the world's top performers, brands, and businesses. I've held executive and senior leadership roles at the social network for athletes Strava and the human performance company TRX, and my byline has appeared in outlets like Rolling Stone, Outside Magazine, the Los Angeles Times, and more. Today, I advise and consult with businesses and nonprofits on high-impact storytelling strategies, and I coach leaders to become high-performance communicators. If you'd like to work with me, DM at HardwayPod or reach out to choosethehardway@gmail.com. This episode is part of the Choose the Hard Way Life Cycles series that explores how bikes shape people and the world. You can find links to the Lanterne Rouge podcast, YouTube channel, and social handles in the show notes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Beyond the Peloton podcast. I'm here as always with Andrew Vance from the Choose the Hard Way podcast, and this is a special, very special episode for 2 reasons. One, to share episode with Choose the Hard Way, so welcome if you're a Choose the Hard Way listener. And 2, we have Patrick Broe. He's also known as Lanterne Rouge, probably I would say the most dominant grassroots cycling media personality online. We can get into if you consider yourself to be like the paper of record at this point for English language cycling media. I think you might be, but this is a huge get for us. It's great to have you, Patrick. Tell us, where are you? We see you're very sunny. We're
happy
very
to be on.
jealous.
We had a good chat the other day, Spencer, and I thought, why not go on the podcast? Because, we talked about some pretty interesting stuff, and we can talk about cycling or media business. But I'm on the Gold Coast. That's why it's very, very, very bright behind my shoulder. Like there's no blockout blinds in Australia like in Europe, or I'm not sure in America or Canada if there is. So 4:30 a.m., you better be getting up in summer because that's when the sun blows through your window. So if I start sweating a little bit, just know that I've closed all the windows up for the mic quality. So I'm putting in the hard yards for this pod.
Well, thanks. That's a sacrifice that Andrew's going to respect and respond to. I definitely know that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to make you sweat. We want to see you cry. We want to have laughter. And Patrick, really excited to chat with you today. Have so many questions for you. I'm very curious about some of the things I've seen pop off on Twitter, both related to pro cycling and to what you and Spencer do.
Awesome. Can't wait to get into it.
Well, I think we should start probably by talking about microphones. So don't you, Spencer?
Yeah. So you were right before we recorded. Patrick, he's in Australia right now, but you live in Andorra, I guess, as your main residence. Let me know if legally you can't say that, but for tax purposes.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Andorra is my fiscal domicile. Yeah.
And that's a big move, obviously, from Australia to Andorra. I assume, we've spoken about this in the past just personally, but you did it for lifestyle reasons because it was too difficult to keep covering pro cycling from the Australian time zone.
Yeah. So it's like I had a sort of decision matrix of, okay, I cannot, if I want to do this full time covering cycling, I cannot do it from Australia. Okay. So where do I have to move? I have to move to Europe, or probably where a lot of you guys, when I say you guys, I mean people covering cycling in North America, in Colorado, is actually a really good spot, time zone wise, tax wise, business wise. So I had really a choice between sort of Texas or Colorado, or Europe, on continental Europe. And I went with Europe over America just because I wanted to be a bit closer to the races. And so if there was travel, for example, say I have to go to the Tour de France route reveal or anything like that, or just get a coffee with someone, it's a lot harder to do that from North America, even though the time zone I think is better in North America to cover cycling in Europe. And so then it's like going through, okay, French, I speak okay French, but is that the best place to set up a digital media business? No. Spain, is that the best place? It will be in a few years. They're introducing things to incentivize creators or digital creators to go to Spain rather than Andorra, but that wasn't in place at the start of 2021. Ireland, not on continental Europe, so Andorra was the one, especially because if you don't have a Schengen passport like you guys, I presume, or Australians or South Africans, then it's a lot easier to just go to Andorra. Say so I don't do the pros will have residency usually, which is passive residency. Majority do. Some actually now have active resident, but majority they pay 50 grand euros, show their pro contract, residency, gone, bang, you got residency. I have a different thing, which is I had to start a business. So I have a company, an Andorran company. I just submit a business plan to the government and to the banks, and you only get residency once the bank opens a bank account for you. So the bankers like hold the keys to residency. And so once they're happy, okay, your business plan's legit, and you got to stump up some cash too. But yeah, that's been the best move because like I'm on the right time zone. It's really catered towards, for a microstate. Of course, you can't get a lot of things, like some things that you might want, but if you want to get any bike parts, you want to get your bike serviced, you want to go hiking, you want to get, okay, my Sony camera breaks. I can literally drive down the road 10 minutes, get one duty free he'll have 5 in stock, Sony A7 IIIs or new Sonys, or I'll go, my mic's busted, or I want a mic for travel, whatever. And at the store in the main street, there's 20 stores that will all have mics, and because people come from Spain for duty free, but also there's a lot of Spanish YouTubers living there.
And so you have a digital media company. Would you describe yourself as primarily a YouTuber? You break down bike races on YouTube?
I think that was how it started, obviously, and then I've tried to spin it into a broader media company using the YouTube channel as the engine room for it. So for example, I got rights agreements now. That's great, but what happens if they go up 10x in value? Sports rights change a lot. They don't just go up 5%. They're really variable. What if they go up 10x? Well, then I need the podcast, which doesn't rely on the rights so much as a hedge. And then now I'm doing consultancy work for some teams or a team. And then the agent going to get the writer's agent license was another hedge in that, what if the media business sort of falls down a little bit? What if there's an advertising apocalypse in 2023? So I got that's why I was I need to have all these different things that are not strictly how popular my content is on YouTube.
So Patrick, a question for you and for Spencer as well. When you announced your relationship with Jumbo-Visma, quite a bit of activity on Twitter about that and about whether you were a journalist or a creator or what exactly you are. I'm curious how both you and Spencer think of yourselves.
I've never really thought about it. I'll let you answer, Spencer. I've already spoken a lot.
Well, just a little bit of background. I because of actually your co-host for Lanterne Rouge, Benji. You guys do work for Yumbo via Lanterne Rouge Media. I think Lotto approached Benji about doing some work. He couldn't do it because he was already occupied, and referred them to me. A very nice thing to do. Thank you, Benji. And so I was doing breakdown work, like video breakdown work for Lotto last year. And so when you announced right after the tour, great tour for Yumbo, that you guys had been working for them, there was like a lot of thoughts shared on Twitter. And I'm over here sweating like, oh man, I'm in trouble. Like, this isn't good. People are going to be pissed at me. And Andrew said, you were like, what are you worried about? Everyone hates you anyway. You work with Lance Armstrong. Like, you have nothing to lose. But I thought it was a little ridiculous because, it's like the most egregious example is like Draymond Green is a podcaster, like a media personality in the NBA, and he's employed by a team, the Golden State Warriors. He's actually playing the game. Like, I wouldn't describe myself as a journalist by any stretch of the imagination. Would you describe yourself as a journalist, Patrick, or are you just more of like a content creator?
I haven't really thought too much about the distinction between the two, and the definition of what a journalist is going to differ between wherever you are. I'd have to read like the Andorran definition for what actually strictly applies to me. But I think what I would change about that is, for sure, the audience would have liked to, I think a lot of the audience would have liked to have known at the time or in advance. And that's something we said like afterwards when we got all that feedback. We then, when the dust had settled a few weeks later, we said, okay, this is how we're going to manage it in the future, which is let everyone know this is what's up. We're going to be doing, tell you in advance, okay, we just signed an X agreement. It's going to last this amount of time, or this agreement's finished. We had no longer work for that team, just so people know in advance. I think that was the major issue, not the actual. It was just people as well. It's like, could I have probably done the announcement a little bit better on my end? Yeah. And the timing. So like, if you're going to announce it like I did at that point of the Tour de France, it's going to like pop off on Twitter, isn't it? Instead of like a November, maybe in the off season, there was always going to be blowback. But I think the way I did it as well amplified that.
Just an observation that I have is that I think many people would like to think that their analysis or commentary about a sport was potentially so insightful that a professional organization, a team, would actually pay them to provide those insights to the team. So I don't know what role that played in some of the blowback or the dust up we observed on Twitter. I think something that people are probably curious about, and you may have shared this on Twitter, but it would be great to share it here, which is, what exactly do you guys do for these teams? And I'm sure you may be under NDAs, but what can you disclose about the work that you actually do?
So like competitor analysis, like people just think about it logically. The big DSs of each team, they're sitting in the car. When the fuck are they going to watch a race?
Yeah, exactly.
They can't even watch the race they're in. That's not even their fault. It's not like a lazy thing or a competency thing. It's just the reality. They're in the car watching on a little mini screen. Even the race they're in, they're not going to be able to watch it like that well. Let alone there's simultaneous races at World Tour level all throughout the season, not just. And when you add in the .pro races where a lot of World Tour teams or relevant riders are competing, they're on simultaneously. Unless you think every DS, when October finishes throughout November, they go and watch every .pro stage and World Tour race in full in November, December, which people aren't doing, they're not able to watch every race. So Benji and I, fortunately, are able to do that. We're watching Étoile de Bessèges stage 3 to see, okay, how does Mads Pedersen kick on a 700-meter, 6% ramp? Can he get over that? And, answer yes, he's quite good on that finish. We're watching like a 21-year-old sprinter and a two-door. I'm not watching every race in full, but I watch the finish of every single World Tour race. Not World Tour. I watch the finish of every UCI race from like 1 up. I'll watch the last 5-10Ks, include like even the races I kind of make fun of sometimes. I'll actually, because I'm a degenerate, watch every single finish. And so that has a big advantage because there's not actually that many people watching every race. And so you'd be like, I know these tendencies. I know what he's good at. This climb's too hard for him. So you can build up like competitor profiles of specific riders that teams are going against. And also like I can build up videos of every single attack a rider has done in their entire career and have that like on video and be like, okay, this is what's going to happen in the first like 3 minutes before he attacks. Maybe there's no pattern. Maybe there's nothing and you won't know. Or maybe this is what he looked like in the 5 minutes before he cracked. You can build up things like that on video. So I think cycling's almost. I'm not a data person, like in terms of I'm not a computer engineer or anything like that. But I still think cycling is incredibly hard to model, and so video and watching the races and using the computer in your brain can have like huge advantages when most of the competition is not watching every single race or going back and watching the race again to see, okay, what went wrong.
Yeah.
And Spencer, how do you approach it?
Well, just two things about what Patrick just said there. This is like a bit mind bending if you start to like think about it too hard. But so Patrick, you keep all the races, right? You record every race. You probably have like a library of every professional race that has happened in the last 4 years.
No, not the last 4 years. But there's Eurosport player and GCN player, or GCN Plus rather. So like you don't even need to. They have a repository now where you can just, if you want to, okay, I think that happened then, you can go and now even they have like a search functionality now. I think GCN Plus, so you can like search up the races, makes it a lot easier.
But let's just say, Time Warner, I think, is their parent company. Let's say things don't go well. I don't know. They sell off GCN, it gets shut down. It's like, what the heck are we going to do? Like, those races are just going to go away, like unless someone stores it. So
but that has happened.
Yeah, doing that in itself is a valuable thing for a team because. And then the second piece is like you could be a successful baseball analyst and never watch a game. Like the funniest part of the Moneyball movie is they're like doing all this work. The game starts and Billy Bean just drives home. He's like, oh, I don't watch the games. Like, what are you talking about? But you can't do that with cycling because, as you say, it's not a math problem. It's not as easy to model. So you're basically just like a professional watcher of races because we have an odd setup where the coaches are driving cars at the same time they're coaching. And as Patrick said, no one's going to go back and watch race after race after race. So you just watch races and try to find patterns. And I even remember there was a discussion during the tour this year where it's like, yeah, I can get you guys these breakdowns like right after the stage. But then they were worried they wouldn't even be able to have time to watch like a short breakdown after the stage. Like that's how busy they are. Because not only do they have to do the race, they have to like move. It's like moving every day. You're so nomadic. You don't really have time to ever sit down and think about bigger trends during a race as it's happening. And
I think so I presume you're talking about sprint analysis for Lotto, if I have to guess, because, Lotto is a sprint-focused team. That's also another thing is video. How do you I think they've done it in horse racing, which is modeling of how the group moves and the drafting benefit. And a horse race over 2,000 meters is extremely similar to a cycling sprint in terms of they're going 60 kph or 40 miles an hour. Aero is important, drafting is important. Slight differences is that cycling races accelerate at the end rather than decelerate, but it's very similar, and they have modeled things like that a little bit better. I think the mountains would be the difference is, of course, that like cycling sprints also they're not in the same course straight line, but video is hugely important for sprint analysis. Like the guys will it's the easiest to show on video. Did you drop him off at 225 meters or 150? Because you got the two guys on the bus being like, that was a good lead out, or, no, you dropped me off too early. Well, you got to go look at the tape to say, okay, no, you left him. Ideally, you don't want a guy doing more than 10 seconds in the wind after he's been let out. More than 10 seconds, probably going to get beaten. And like Morkov was dropping Cav off last year doing 4 seconds. Like you can't lose
for like a total of 15 seconds in the 2021 tour.
You can't lose from that position. But yeah, some guys are getting dropped off like 18 seconds, and like you got no chance unless you're like there's a huge ability discrepancy, which at the tour there isn't. Everyone's good. So yeah, a video is hugely important. But as you said, Spencer, like it's more important, I think, almost for the coaches because the riders, like, they're so tired. Imagine they just had a bad experience, didn't go to plan, and then they go on the bus, and then the next morning, whatever, they got the videos up, and here's what you did wrong. Here's what you. I mean, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. Ideally, you have a team culture where it's a positive, constructive. This is what we're going to improve. But still, like first thing in the morning, this is what we're going to change. I think it's better to have it like the coaches actually see what happened, and then they are equipped to communicate better with the riders. This is what you guys need to change, rather than forcing the riders to sit there mid-Grand Tour and watch through it. That's just my view on it.
Patrick, follow-up question. You mentioned how difficult it is to model what might potentially happen in a bike race, which means that it's difficult to have pattern recognition. Yet I think what you just described is a great example of a pattern you have recognized, which is, hey, if you can put your sprinter in the position where they're only in the wind for 4 seconds, they're going to have to do less work. They're in a better position to accelerate more rapidly and to win the race. Prior to you and people like you and Spencer getting involved, were those types of facts, were they understood and were they being leveraged as precisely as they perhaps are now, or is this a new innovation?
I think the key is what you said just at the end of that question, which is, were they leveraged precisely? And I think no, but always, of course, for 30 years since the traditional sprint train was set up, 3 decades ago, they knew drop sprinter off late, sprinter will win. Like, it's not like they understood of course, but did they know, okay, 10 seconds is like a tipping point where if he does do more than 10 seconds, you got real problems. And 7 seconds, he has like X percentage chance of winning, or a much higher percentage chance of winning. No, like I don't think that's well understood. I think all the teams are trying to get their sprinter let out as close to the line as possible, but there's no like goal, and especially when meters are irrelevant because, as I said, like there's curves, uphill, downhill, so like. Again, teams are smart. Like they do have experienced DS. They're not like, oh, it's a false flat uphill finish, so we can still drop him off at 175 meters. They know you got to drop him off closer, but it's like, okay, but you got to calculate the time it will take because the speed will be like maybe 52 kph. The time you need to actually drop him off. Where will 10 seconds be? Okay, it's going to be at 110 meters, so that's our goal.
Yeah, you only know the time after it's too late. So yeah, you have to try to figure that
exactly.
out.
But that's guesswork. Yeah, you're just guessing, like, and it's hard, especially because climbing you can guess. We're really, really accurate on the predictions of especially on the steeper the climb and the longer the better for like accuracy. But yeah, sprinting is you're really guessing.
Are you guys situated within the team within the context of a full stack high performance team, or is what you're doing complementary to what the team is doing internally from a data analysis of performance data point of view?
I'm not like logged into the team's training peaks or anything like that. I don't have like access in that way. It's tough. It's sort of yes and no. I think this year was more of a trial, and then the next couple of years I think it'll be integrated a little bit more. But yeah, I'm not working like full time for Jumbo. And we didn't work full time for them this year either. It's more like, okay, there's this specific race. What's your thoughts on this? And we kind of did more than was expected, I think, in terms of what we provided.
So it's more the case that you are providing an input that the team then chooses what to do with. Yep. Versus, like, I've had the opportunity to work with the high performance team for World Rugby and some professional sports organizations in the United States. And typically that's going to have perhaps psychologists who specialize in skill acquisition, people who specialize in biomechanics, skill transfer, and then you're going to have a strength and conditioning coach and then an actual position coach working with specific players. And then there also is going to be somebody looking at data from video capture and replay. So, but in this instance, it sounds like it's not as aggregate, or there's not as coordinated of an approach yet within professional cycling.
I think that's right. But the essence of what you said is correct. Like, we provide an input, advice as consultants. This is what we think about race strategy. This is what we think the competitors will do. This is what we think you should do. They can take the advice, take it on board, do it or not. Like, for example, people thought we knew exactly what Jumbo would do every stage. Like, if you listen to the podcast throughout the tour, that you couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I thought, they maybe do X, they do this, and there's reasons for that. Like, we're not embedded in the team, so there could be a myriad of reasons why they would be like, thanks for your advice, but for the XYZ reason, actually, it's better to do this. Or, for example, I thought they were going to lead out Wout on the Champs-Elysees, and then I was like, where's Wout in the sprint? And they were doing the victory. I had no idea they were going to do the victory dance and not compete for the sprint on stage 21. But yeah, it's like, provide advice on this thing, and then, of course, there's like the trainer, as well, like the performance guys who are really, really good. Like actually, maybe this guy's like, not feeling so good today. I don't know. I don't see that data. As I said, I'm not looking at like their physiological stuff unless I need to, sort of post race.
And that's new in itself. I mean, Jumbo's like the best team as far as front office, back room stuff, I think. But think even, I don't know, 7 years ago, like, teams would not have coaches. Or you would just provide your own coach. Like, if you're on a professional team, you hire an outside coach. That's been brought in-house mainly because it's, easier to control naughtiness when it comes to doping if you're doing it in-house. But also, like, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus here, but like, Vaughters used to coach the riders himself. Like, he would have like 6 riders that he was like personally coaching on EF. Like, that's insane to me. The man is like, you should be coached by like a doctor or like a professional, someone who is only doing that. I think the results were rather mixed with Jonathan's personal coaching of team riders, but we're like just now entering even the dark ages in cycling. But also, I think you'd be surprised in like the NFL, especially, how bad some of the intra-team training is. Like, the Cincinnati Bengals don't have a training facility that's indoors because it's just cheaper not to have it. And I have a friend that consults for NFL teams on, the type of player you want to draft. And he went to one and asked, like, so how do you guys keep an eye on every player's metrics, like biometrics? And they're like, yeah, we weigh him once a week. And like, this is an NFL team that's playing today, or not literally today, but it's currently competing in the NFL. And they're only just weighing players once a week, and that's how they tell if they're in shape or out of shape or what they need to work on. So there's a lot to be advanced in professional sports.
I actually think cycling's ahead of the curve in like performance culture, not in race strategy and all, and that is like a separate bucket, but in like getting guys to go as fast as they can for their genetics. I think cycling is actually, that's where all the focus has been, rather than on getting the best results for a guy's physiology through better race selection tactics, etc. But like, the 10th guy in a Grand Tour now is going faster than the winners 10 years ago, and there's more testing. So like, they're doing 4 altitude camps a year minimum. Like, even teams who historically maybe, like, tactics wise, is FDJ the best? No. Do they have a really good head of performance? Yes. Like, their guys are all performing at a really high level. They even improved, like the Lapierre improved the TT bike for them. So like, all the teams are trying to go faster now. Even historically, the teams that were a bit slower to it, and maybe Sky were the leaders, like, all the teams are going fast now.
Yeah, and in professional cycling, we've been gathering data on athletes from a power point of view, which provides a more granular level of understanding of the athlete's performance, of course, than heart rate alone since the early 90s. So cycling has been one of the most data-driven sports from an individual athlete point of view for almost 3 decades now. And from a team point of view, it sounds like a data-driven strategic team performance is a relatively new thing, and there's a lot of opportunity for improvement in that regard.
Yeah, I think it's still really tough to predict what the top guys will do on a mountaintop finish in their A target, because there's such few data points. Like, how often before the tour, like how often did Enric Mas do a 45-minute climb to altitude in good condition where he's motivated to go full gas with good pacing in a race? It's maybe like once. And so he might have improved a lot. It's really hard to accurately guess what everyone will do. Like, I thought Remco would go super fast in the Vuelta. Like, I thought he would, but there was a range. Like, for sure, I thought there is zero chance he gets dropped in the first week. Zero chance. But I didn't know he'd take 90 seconds on stage 6. I was like, what the fuck? Like, him and Jay Vine went super fast. So even, that was really surprising. I thought Pico Hanna would be group sprint, but then two guys just really perform at a super high level above what I thought. And so, like, it is still tough to predict.
Yeah, and think about your Craig Lewis profile. Fantastic, by the way, for Outside Magazine in 2006.
Thank you.
And it was all just about, it's like he's the next Lance because his power to weight numbers are at a certain level. And like that's been the obsession in cycling for over a decade now, that, it's just like, as Patrick's saying, bleed everything out of someone's genetics, because you have to hit, 6.2 watts per kilos for 50 minutes to be competitive. And then what's been neglected is the basic strategic structure on how to actually race to maximize that fitness and, and gain an edge in ways that aren't just training and physiology.
It seems like another area where there could be further optimization, and I'm just thinking about Tom Dumoulin, Jonas Vingegaard, and some of the other athletes who have maximized their genetic potential and then really suffered from a mental health point of view, is taking a different approach to mental health for these athletes to ensure that once they reach that level, they can actually continue to perform at that level.
I think Geraint Thomas is a great example of and Kwiatkowski. I think Kwiatkowski makes sure to take at least 6 weeks properly off. Thomas has had in terms of physiology, a career year this year. What is he, 36 years old? He's had he's still going to be Ineos probably best GC contender next year. And him and Rowe, they seem to, fuck around a bit, and they don't take it too, of course they take the race super seriously, but they're not they're clearly you look at the Instagram stories or whatever, they're having fun on the December camp, they're keeping it light. And if I had to guess, I don't think Geraint Thomas right now is hyper stressing that he's 100 grams over this weight or whatever, because that's not sustainable. He knows, okay, I've got to be ready for the Giro in May, and he'll lock in the 2 months before that. But obviously he's still training and stuff. But I think that's, for long careers, that's sustainable. Now, maybe if you want to hit the high highs, you can't do that because it's so competitive. Maybe you need to, for Dumoulin to win that Giro against Quintana, who was still performing at a high level when he's a foot taller than him. Maybe if he'd taken the Thomas approach, he wouldn't have been able to have that 0.1 watts per kilo extra, and he gets dropped too much on the climbs.
Yeah, I completely agree. That to be at the level, Tom Dumoulin's a big guy, naturally a big guy. To be racing at the weight he was racing at is just probably going to fundamentally take a mental toll that is perhaps unavoidable. I don't know if there's a clean answer there, if there's a way to walk that thin of a line that he was walking and then preserve your mental health or quality of life. I'm kind of interested in Valverde. If you watch that Movistar documentary, the guy is unbelievably lean. Him and Marc Soler are sucking in their stomachs to see who's the skinniest. Yeah. Valverde looks like a corpse almost. It's really shocking.
Scary.
It doesn't seem to, it just seems like he's able to always be at 100 and it never really takes a toll. And he was able to do it for 22 years or something. Maybe that's just an inherent mindset that not everyone has.
I think he's kind of similar to Thomas a little bit different, but now that I speak a bit better Spanish, I can actually understand that, I can watch their documentaries or watch their YouTube content, which isn't subtitled. And Valverde, who's retired, is doing the full December training camp right now. with the team, and like he's flogging them on climbs too. Like apparently the guy's saying he's like pushing on the climbs, and I think he would come back from a race and he would just go train with his buddies. And I'm talking like accountants and whatever. They just go to a flat group ride in Mercia, just chilling. Like I think he's like the old school. I get fit through racing, and I'll just like tootle around at home in Mercia, and then I'll sharpen up for the big A targets. And I think he just loves it as well. And I also think, like, scary thought, if he's going to actually be a DS, but you can tell from you see in the documentaries, like he doesn't really think about the race too much. Like he's not sitting there obsessing before the stage, like stressing out, oh my God, am I going to get dropped on this climb? Where's the pinch point of this? He's just like, I'll go race today. I think that helps his longevity.
Yeah, I think those kinds of instincts, I think, are going to serve him well when he enters the gravel community here in the next 3 to 6 months.
Imagine Valverde turning up to it's like 60 kilos. He'd be good. There's like I reckon he'll do the gravel race Clásico Jaén in January or February down in Spain, and then he'll be like, actually, maybe I like gravel. And then Canyon will be like, actually, would you like to be a sponsored gravel athlete?
Man, we can only dream. And then that's our competition at the BWR ride, Andrew, when we go do that in the fall.
Yeah, it'll be him, it'll be Sagan, probably Remco. I'm going to go ahead and I like hot takes. I'll make one. I'll make a prediction right now. I think Valverde gravel world champion 2023.
It's possible. Sagan's actually realistic. I reckon they might actually. When is that? What month is it in?
September, right?
Post Tour de France.
Yeah.
I reckon there's actually a high chance Specialized to like, do you want to do that?
That'd be awesome. And I think now that you say that, Patrick, about his training, that like when I was just coming up, as like a low level professional, it was, you train to get in race, and you just kind of do a lot of group rides in your training. And then maybe 2012, 2013, the Sky model of every training effort needs to be a simulation of a race, or you should never turn a pedal if it's not relevant to this training plan. And everyone started training by themselves, and group rides kind of hit a low point, and that's probably effective, but it's not good for your longevity or your mental health at all. Like if you want to have a long career at a high level, that's probably not the best way to do it.
Guys are trying to ride like they're training in races now. They're literally like, oh, I don't want to go above this because my threshold X. It's like, even though they know they're not going to get dropped, they're trying to like, and even if like it puts them in a way worse position. So like a lot of the young guys are just super obsessed with the power numbers to the point where in races, they're like if you're doing a full gas mountaintop finish, of course you shouldn't just like launch it from the base and blow yourself up. But like, you might, in that high adrenaline, high stimulus, where you've peaked for it environment, the 20-minute best you might have done before is completely irrelevant. Like you might exceed that. So yeah, and often like guys, this guy's doing so much power, psych themselves out. Like I think the power numbers are a little bit. Of course, when you have a race plan, okay, penultimate climb, want guys to go on the front, do 5.5. Between 5.4, 5.6, that's different. But the power stuff almost gets overrated a little bit over like actual race dynamics.
Yeah, I totally agree. Andrew and I ask each other questions on this podcast from time to time, and I'm very excited to have a new voice here. I'd love to lob a few at you if you're ready to take them.
Go for it.
All right, and I'm not a journalist. Andrew is a journalist, so mine are easy softballs. So why is it this is something we've discussed on and off the air a lot? Why is Remco Evenepoel not going to the Tour de France in 2023? Like, what's going on here? The Giro seems like a step back to the Vuelta, in my opinion. If you're world champion, you've got to be at the Tour. That's my unwritten rule about the sport. Yeah. Like at some point, you've just got to step up to the plate and do this. He's not that much younger than Pogačar. I don't really buy this. He needs to develop line of thinking. What's your answer here? What do you think?
I think there's a few reasons that that are flawed. First of all, is what you said, is that they think, okay, slowly, Vuelta, then Giro, then we'll step up to the Tour de France, which is like, I'm not even sure that is a thing. Like people say that's a thing, but like Pogacar went Vuelta Tour, even though he wanted to go to the Giro in 2020, and the team made him do the Tour, and then he would never have won the Tour in 2020. So there's like, okay, we need another stepping stone. When you're the world champ and you're like, let's say clear top 5 GC contender in the world, I think better than that, but let's say a clear top 5, if you just won the Vuelta like that, like why do you need to do another stepping stone? So I think that's flawed. Second one is they think the team's not good enough, but I think it's better to learn, like see where the team's not good enough. Are the rouleurs good enough? Is it the mountain train that's a problem? Because like the race will show where your problems are, and I think if you win a soft Giro, or it might not tell you that information of what extra rider you need. And then thirdly is impossible to know, but could be attendance money at the Giro. Like he lives in Valencia, he's moved there. There's the Volta Valenciana around his house, like a 5-day race in start of February. And yet he's doing the Vuelta a San Juan at the end of January, flying to South America, to Argentina to do that race, which is like sketchy too. Like you should see some of the finishes in that race. It's like, well, why is he doing the Vuelta San Juan? Like, it's not a better race than Valenciana. So I think, they're trying to maximize those world championship stripes, and I hope they spin it into some top domestiques in 2024, because that must be the reason why they're doing this, is to think they build up the team and get some more money. I don't know. But I don't think they think he can win the Tour is another reason. They don't think he can win it. They don't even know how good he is.
I think the stepping stone is it's a fallacy. And I think Tom Dumoulin, I mean, he didn't throw away his career. I mean, he had a great career. I would have loved to have Tom Dumoulin's career. But he didn't win the Tour, I think, because he faffed about so much. And do you remember he had this like obsession with not going to the Tour? Like, oh, I'm going to the Giro because there's time trial kilometers. And then actually never really worked out for him that well, except for the one that he won. And then he lost to Froome and he got second, and then went to the Tour and got second, which is, he got fourth at Worlds. It's like the worst / best result run I've ever seen. But if he just goes to the Tour that year, I think that was 2018, he probably wins the Tour. And then it's maybe a different career trajectory. So I think that's a huge mistake to just think that you have these stepping stones. And if you remember Bradley Wiggins in 2013, the Giro is not a slam dunk. Like you can get roughed up at that race.
Exactly. Like that's the other thing. They probably think, oh, okay, Giro, he'll walk it. But it's like, if he doesn't win it, that's going to be tough mentally. And then they think, oh, he's young, he'll just win the Tour. It's like, will he? Like, let's say it's just all probabilistic, right? If you're a top 3 GC contender in the world like him, you're going to have, let's say, a 5 to 7 year peak. Every Tour de France you enter, you have a 33% chance of winning. Like, that means there is a world in which if you only do it 3 times, you probably, I'm trying to do that in my head, but like you will win 50% of the time. Like that's not a great odds. Like you should every year when you haven't won it, and it's your life goal. If it is, I don't know what his life goals are, career goal. Then when you're in peak condition, which will not last forever, like you got to do the Tour. I think. Like how long was most guys' peaks are not that 5 to 7 years. Lance was different. Lance, I think, almost had an 8 to 9 year peak. But even when he took the time off, I remember if you look on 5312, Ferrari's website, deep in the forums, one of his responses is that Lance was physically at his best when he took the time off, but mentally he needed to take the time off. So whatever way, whether physically or mentally, it is tough to have more than 5 years straight at the top.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Andrew.
Do you believe that Remco strikes me as a very confident person? Do you believe that he has been convinced that he does not have the ability to win the Tour, or do you think he himself does not believe he can win the Tour?
I mean, maybe he just wants to win the Giro. Maybe he just thinks he's got unfinished business with the race from 2021. Is that last year when they rushed him back to do it? It's kind of funny how, like, on the one hand, they've rushed him back to do the Giro after the horrific accident, and then a year later, we're meant to believe, it's like a slowly, like, career progress thing. Like, it seems very two ends of the spectrum. No, I think you're right. I think he would know. Surely he can take it to Pogačar and Vingegaard and Roglic. Like, he would. I think he's confident. He knows how good he is. Like, he rode away from everyone at Worlds and Liège, and beat Roglic. I know Roglic maybe wasn't in top shape in the Vuelta, but he destroyed everyone in that first 10 days, and the race was over, even when he crashed. So I think he knows, like, he knows numbers too. Like, Remco also, like, he knows power numbers, and Lospakila, he knows what he did in the Vuelta in Norway. He can compare that, and he doesn't think, I'm just going to go ruin them in the Tour de France, but I think he knows he'd be competitive. And who knows, maybe Ayuso in 2024 is, like, way better than all these guys. Maybe Jan Uterbrooks in 2025 is way better than everyone. And maybe Jorgen Nordhagen in 2026 and 7 is way better than everybody. Like, Bernal was one in 2019. It's not that long ago.
Yeah.
And, so, he's unlikely to win a Tour ever again.
Is he on the right team? Does he need to leave Quickstep?
Oh, nah. Like, probably Ineos were interested. I think Quickstep is fine. Like, Quitman is good. Rouleurs are good. Alaphilippe is a really good, versatile domestique. Like, as we saw in the Vuelta before he crashed out. Yeah, and Hertzin, I think Quickstep, I think the team itself is fine. The equipment's good, and they're really good at probably managing tricky stages too because of all the sprint experience. Their directors will know, okay, this is a pinch point. Go this way around the roundabout, not this way. They'll be really, like, well above average in that. So I think Quickstep's fine. Is he getting underpaid? Yes. Like, Lefebvre, I think, wrote an article literally almost boasting about that 2 weeks ago, saying, yeah, if Remco left Quickstep, he'd be the highest paid rider in cycling, but he's here with me. I was like, I'm not sure you should write that. Yeah, I think the team is fine. I think it gives him, maybe Ineos, it'd be a little bit more, but it'd be a big change too.
You mentioned Bernal. I had him on my list of questions. Why do you believe that he's never going to win the Tour now?
Because he wasn't doing it even before the crash. Like, you look at Tirreno Adriatico 21, like, he and Thomas tried to 1-2 Pogačar and they got ruined. I mean, okay, he might not have been in peak shape, of course, but his numbers pre-crash suggest that he wouldn't really be competitive with Pogačar and Vingegaard in the mountains. And so if he's not competitive in the mountains and then we add it in a time trial, then it's really, really unlikely. His strength is, like, really tricky technical finishes. He's really good in the bunch for such a small guy. Crosswinds, he's good. Wet weather, he's really good. Cold conditions, he's good. High altitude, so that all suggests Giro.
Yeah, he could be like a 5-time Giro winner if he wanted to.
So he could beat Remco in the Giro. Remco could slap him 4 stages in a row. 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds on sort of medium difficulty mountaintop finishes, but then there could be, like, one brutal stage, cold, freezing, and you see what Simon Yates, they could just collapse. Like, you don't know how and Bernal, I don't think, collapses in those situations.
And what you're saying, like, you said you didn't say this verbatim, but you said it, like, the risk is the ones you don't see. It's like the youth coming up. When Bernal's winning in 2019, they're looking around saying, wow, who can stop us? Like Neil Rogers tweets every time someone wins, this guy's going to win for the next 10 years. It never happens. But no one knew who Tadej Pogačar was. Maybe if you watched the Tour of California that year, you knew who he was, but no one was paying attention. And then he's an order of magnitude better than Bernal. And then, yeah, as you're saying, is Juan Ayuso just going to be a step above everyone? And if you don't strike while the iron is hot, you might never win again.
Yeah, like, you don't know, like, because teams now are not doing some sort of, like, plan where you're only going to do your first tour at 24 and then you're only going to be leader at 27, like maybe was the case in 2000. Like, teams know, okay, the kid can do in training 7 watts per kilo for 20 minutes. He's good in race. He's going to the Tour. That's what UAE did with Pogačar in 2020. Like Aru was supposed to be the leader, but they're like, we better take Pog because he is so good. And who knows? And so teams are not, a lot of teams are just not shielding the young guys anymore. If like Bora, I think Bora should take Oterbrooks to the tour this year, because probably expected case, he's a domestique for Hindley. That's great experience. You'll be in the last 12 to 15 guys on mountaintop finishes. You experience the stress, the atmosphere, and you got no pressure. He'll have no pressure if he goes. I think it's like it's what Ineos did with Bernal in 2018. Yeah. It's the perfect, but maybe they won't. Maybe they're like, oh, he should do like, a .pro sort of. He should try and win Tour of Turkey sort of approach. But yeah, I think Ineos definitely. If the guy's good enough, bang, he's in.
Why has this changed? Assuming, let's say Bora does take him, that would there's a pattern of behavior where it's changed from, you're a leader when you're 27 to you're 20 and you're pretty good. And we have a cancer scientist as our trainer and he's saying, you're awesome, so we should take you. Like, what changed? Why are teams now doing this when they didn't used to do it? Even, power's been around for a long time. And even with those power numbers in 2013, it's hard to imagine a team behaving that way.
I think it is the power stuff. I think teams understanding power data and projecting it is probably only the last 5 years, teams really start to understand it. And like, okay, this guy did X in training camp in January, because once they put the guy on the schedule, which gets decided in December, January, if Oterbrooks, say they have an opinion of him in December, January, that he's not going to the tour because slowly, and then he does really good numbers in a race in April, like unless the schedule really allows it, or they thought there might be a chance he goes to the tour, he might already be not able to do the training camp, or his race schedule doesn't line up with the tour because they didn't think he would go in December, January, because they didn't think, okay, like, what is Pidcock doing 6.6 in December mean he can do in July? Like, obviously it means he should go to the tour, and of course he will go to the tour, like, of course. But it's the edge cases where it's like, what if he did 6.2 and he's this age and he wasn't that trained? They maybe 10 years ago wouldn't put him in the tour, sort of the tour trajectory where he might go.
And will Tom Pidcock win a Grand Tour? I'm asking this one for Andrew.
It was on my list of questions. Thank you, Spencer.
It's really hard. Like, he has a chance to, but like, is his climbing going to be better than the top guys? Probably not. I have no idea what his fatigue resistance is like. He was really good in the first 10 stages of the tour. Will he focus on it exclusively for 3 years when he's still young, to the exclusion of CX? Because remember, like, Evans and Fuglsang and Rasmussen and Sagan, they were all like top mountain bike riders. Like, they were superstars in others, but they gave it away to focus on Rouge. So is that necessary? I don't know. Like, I'm not a sports scientist, so maybe it's not necessary. Maybe CX is actually good for him in January. Mentally, maybe it's really good for him. And that's important too. His descending's great, punch is good. Ineos, obviously, above average team. Will he go to... I think he might be able to win a Vuelta. I think of Vuelta really, because he's kind of like Roglic, right? I think of Vuelta where Pog, maybe 2024 Vuelta, I think is a really good chance he could win it.
Guys, a question for both of you, just as we're talking about these individual riders and their prospects for the future, something that often gets overlooked or taken for granted is there's an assumption that the level teams are at today, and like, even if we hold their financial support constant, there's an assumption that's generally made that they will continue to be as organized, as strategic, and will take as cohesive of an approach as they have in the past. And I think last year, Ineos is a good example of, Geraint Thomas shows up with a vest at the tour, right? And the first time trial. And like, we just see these little mistakes. And there were a number of those little mistakes that were very out of character, I think, for that team. Are there any teams that are sleepers in the background that you see slowly laying the foundation that might not be obvious to the casual fan of the sport or even the expert fan, that are on the rise and might be able to put riders in a position where the team and the rider can punch above their weight?
I think Movistar are maybe a coach or a DS away. A few changes. Now they might go the other direction, put Valverde in the car, and it might not work out.
Yeah, that's what
but
I
I
don't
think
like about that situation.
Yeah, I probably won't, but I think they're kind of close. Like they got good team camaraderie. It's just missing that little bit. And what you're talking about, Andrew, is exactly what happened with Intermarché, which completely went under the radar. I completely overlooked it because no one really looks at staff movements that closely or quantifies them. But yeah, we were doing the Intermarché and DSM preview in the same recording on the Lanterne Rouge Cycling podcast, and we realized, Benji looked up, that Eike Wiesbeek went from DSM in the end of 2020, so for the 2021 season, to Intermarché for 2021. And DSM Sunweb, for the 4 years or whatever he was there, 18, 19, 20, absolutely flying, goes to Intermarché. I think our preview, I was like, one of the worst teams in cycling. He goes there, and all of a sudden this year they're like a really good team. Not just they got out of the relegation battle by like March, and then they were focused on like being a good team. And so it almost is like one staff member can change everything. Like, and Ineos, for example, like a fair few staff movements this year. I'll see what happens with that. Like Narvin, a lot of people I think will let go. Stannard comes in from Trinity. I did like that he went and they didn't just give him a job as a DS at Ineos. He went and worked at Trinity. I think that's good. But yeah, like I don't know how that will play out because I have no idea how good Ian Stannard is at preparing a group of guys for a race.
And so one thing that makes I just think about I find myself thinking about Movistar more than I should. Like, so they're, fantastically dressed, GM owner. He seems to do everything there. Like, is that a hindrance at a certain point because you have this powerful legacy figure just sitting on top of every decision that gets made? And even if Pachi Vila comes in, he can't turn the culture around because we have to go on the sensations and how we feel versus what objective things are telling us.
Yeah, I think Nzue Senior is really conservative. So like, if a decision in a race in the Vuelta means that there is 1% less chance that Enric Mas keeps second, I'm not even to go to just keep second, i.e. a rider going for a stage from a breakaway, then they won't do it if he's calling the shots. That's what I think. And maybe because like when Verona does get a free leash, he won Dauphiné stage.
Yeah, really impressively too.
Like, yeah, he's a super strong rider. Like he could be a great rider in breaks. They generally only put riders in breakaways defensively as a satellite rider, so they'll put a rouleur in a breakaway in a mountain stage, and you're like, why have they put Nelson Oliveira in this break? And it's sort of to have him up the road in case. So I'd like to see them be a lot more aggressive next year because they can win more races just by, I think if Jumbo Visma let Wout van Aert do whatever he wants, no, that's not true. Ride for his own ambitions in the Tour de France for green whilst going for yellow, then really if your rider's sort of sitting comfortably in third on GC, the other riders within reason should have some free rein to target breakaways and stages. Otherwise, because if you don't, and you don't have a sprinter, how are you going to win any races throughout the year? Like, you're not going to win very many races.
Slightly important. It's not something you want to overlook that they seem to do sometimes. Do you think
exactly
Ineos, Andrew, I'll let you ask a question right after this. Sorry, I'm going crazy over here. Do you think Ineos is, obviously the death of Nico Portal was tragic and unforeseeable. I think he was like a great manager and they haven't quite been the same since. But do you think Dave Brailsford stepping up to his kind of C-suite corner office role has hurt the day-to-day operations of that team?
I don't know. Like, I'm not in the team, so I have no idea. But yeah, like He's like living in like a camper van in Nice, right? Managing the football team there.
Yeah, and he used to
Ellingworth came across.
go to every race. Like he would just have a little camper van.
Yeah.
And he would drive around to every race they were at.
And then sort of they had a couple of years during the pandemic. Yeah, they hired Adam Yates. Was he the answer? Like, no. So like they let him go. They still have a lot of like quite good, but not like S tier GC contenders. And maybe they're like, okay, well, we got to sign Michael Leonard because I said Nordhagen. What if Michael Leonard 2026, 2027 is the one at the Tour? They signed Plapp. He's kind of in the Grant Thomas model, like an ex-track guy. But I don't know. It's Ellingworth's in charge. Some of their signings, like, I think are quite sponsor-driven. Like Viviani, is he like? Why do they sign Viviani? Like that's for the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
That's not really for road, and so they even have a whole of sport objective, not just road performance. And I'm always just assessing them on road performance, but that because I'm like Viviani's not good. Like he won, I think he's not good at World Tour level anymore. So Ineos is one of the top teams. They should only be focusing on World Tour wins or young guys who could win at World Tour. So why are they signing Viviani? Well, friends with Ganna, and it's to get gold on the track in Paris in 2024. And I'm like, well, if that means Pinarello pay more money, like, can I criticize that? Like, it's just reality of business.
You mentioned Brailsford. Something that struck me during the 2022 season is that during the few bright spots that Ineos did have, I'm thinking of Paris-Roubaix in particular, like it seemed like Brailsford himself actually won Paris-Roubaix. He really put himself in the foreground. I know Spencer and I talked about it following the race, and he's clearly he's played a huge role in British cycling and in the success of Sky and then Ineos. It just seemed odd to me that he was popping up during the like very bright spot highlight moments for the team in a way that you didn't really see with other organizations. But it's something we haven't talked about that, Patrick, I'd love to hear your take, and Spencer as well. What's going to happen to Matthew van der Poel in 2022? Or sorry, I think we know what's happening in 2022. He might be winning a few more races this week, but as we
as Christmas races,
as we look to 2023, though, is this going to be? Are we going to see him just completely flame out at some point, or do you think he's going to actually manage his talent and his effort better in 23?
I think they brought in some really good support for him with Søren Kragh and Quinton Herman, so that's a big plus. I don't know. Like, it's kind of crazy this year how he did Classic, Milan Sanremo Classics, Giro, Tour. And I don't know what happened, but in the Giro, I think as well, like, there's no shame in leaving after the first rest day if you've achieved your objective. And if staying is going to stuff up the rest of your season, then, and you know, you need to go to the Tour for sponsors and whatever, then what ended up happening was he didn't leave the Giro, and then he had to leave the Tour on stage 11, which wasn't a great outcome for them probably. So I don't know. It's a lot of weight on him. Maybe then Quinton Hermans, they think, can take some weight off in certain races. Maybe he doesn't have to do some of the other races. But yeah, that's a risk. I agree that, like, I'm always thinking what could happen here. He's had the long-standing chronic back issue, I think, that wasn't actually from the Olympics fall. It was like, I think from memory, it was separate to that. So I don't know. I think he'll still turn up to RVV as the favorite. Like, if Søren Kragh and Hermans is there, like, he should still be the favorite.
Honestly, I worry about just looking at some of the conditions they've been racing in during the cyclocross season, which are the same conditions they always race in. Just the risk of an orthopedic injury or re-injuring his back seems extremely high to me. And I guess he's a rider at a level and on a team where he can have significant control over what he does and does not do. It just does not seem wise with other objectives he might have later in the season for him to be running in ankle deep mud on off camber turns. But he's a
well,
fighter.
there's
and
not
he
that
likes
much
to be
money.
out there. Yeah.
So they can't tell him no because he's only on $2 million, and like he's worth 4 or 5. If he was on another team, as sort of one of the best classics riders in the world, and everything else he does, and he's on 2, and I think that's so. Then he has to be able to go all the CX races with all the appearance fees, etc.
So yeah,
Is it the same with Pidcock then?
I don't know what he's like. He signed a big extension with Ineos, but I think part of that took ages to negotiate. I think, but surely that's sort of their whole of cycling thing. So I think like they're happy for him to do mountain bike at the Olympics, to do cyclocross, because it's like Pinarello gets three bikes worth of exposure rather than one, and multi-sport. And the Olympics, let's be real, the Olympics is bigger than 99.9% of cycling races, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I know Spencer and I did an episode about cyclocross recently, and it was immediately, I'm going to forget which World Cup race it was, but it was the one where Matthew van der Poel was leading, slid out on the cobbles, had a very heavy wreck, and then Pidcock was inches behind him, ran into van der Poel, and then also went down on the cobbles. And I mean, I think that's just a perfect example of, yes, wrecks happen all the time in cycling. Beyond the Peloton, we always talk about how the ground is undefeated in the history of bike racing. Like, you're not going to win if the ground decides you're going to be stuck to it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, gosh, does Pidcock want to take that level of risk with what he has in front of him? I guess the answer right now is yes, but
it's why we're nerds and he's him.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
He's not sitting around thinking, oh, is this actually that safe? Should I be doing this?
Yeah.
But even like the back into the Giro, it's funny you mentioned that. I have thought a lot about that, Patrick, where Van der Poel spent a lot of time in mountain breakaways, which like they were impressive. Like that was cool. But
it's super exciting.
Not what I would recommend. I think it fried him for the rest of the year. Is he just kind of making he's a bit essentially taking a pay cut so he can be his own boss. He can work for himself.
Yeah, like what can they say to him? He's brought that team up, and he's been there for ages. So, but yeah, it's like, do they know? Like, exactly, those mountain stages were super impressive, and I was like, wow, he's actually performing better than I thought he would. But he still couldn't win. Like on the final mountaintop finish, I can't remember, it was like Jan Hirt or someone. I swear it was like Jan Hirt, Carthy, Buitrago, and Leemreiser were like in the break, like 3 consecutive mountain breaks, and like they still dropped him on the final finish. He didn't really have a chance. But I don't know, like maybe it was the appearance fee at the Giro, and so like you got to finish the race. But yeah, I guess you can sit in the bunch too. You don't need to do that. It certainly didn't help his Tour de France preparation, like finishing the Giro like that.
No. Do you have one more question you want to ask, Andrew?
Just on that Matthew van der Poel topic, one of the things Spencer and I talked about during the Giro and then during the Tour, and you mentioned this earlier, Patrick, this phenomenon of some riders within Grand Tours or the highest level races, it seems like perhaps they're just training in the middle of the race. Did you get the feeling that van der Poel was potentially doing training as the Giro went on, or was it just unintelligent, non-strategic riding?
Oh, no, he definitely was training in Settimana, the 1 week Italian race before the Giro, 100%. That was just like training. No, in the Giro, I think he was trying to win the stage. I think he was trying to be like, if I reckon I can win. And there was a chance he could win one of them. Like he tried to get ahead of the break using the descent and stuff. I think he just wanted to put on a show and see if he could win a mountain break and test his limits. And like, yeah, it was super exciting. But there was, I can't even remember how the Tour de France started. I didn't really have any stages that suited him in stage 1, 2, 3. But yeah, like then.
Oh, wait, yeah, this is fitting because it was in Denmark. I don't think there was a single hill the entire opening weekend.
But he was there, right, for Longwy and Lausanne?
Yeah, and he just
stage 6 and 8, those puncheur stages?
Yeah, he was terrible. He was always like last guy in the bunch. Could barely kind of stay in the race.
Yeah, so like those are his stages. Like he probably Pog won one, right? I'd say he probably beats. He wins one of those two, I think, because even Wout, the Wout one wasn't perfect positioning. He sort of had to come around Matthews. So I think Van der Poel wins one of them in peak condition.
Spencer, how about you? You got a final question before you head out to the tee?
I was just going to say, does he know that some races are more important than the others? Because do you remember the Bink Bank Tour was like the day before Liège, and he was off the front for like 50K. And then I think he finished 7th at Liège the next day. And it's like, you probably win that race if you just skip the final day of the Bink Bank Tour or don't go solo for the last 2 hours of it.
I think in race, Van der Poel actually took a big step up this year. I think he was way better in race. So like in those Giro stages in a bubble, did he, to win those stages with that parcours, did he adopt a strategy that gave him the highest chance of winning? Yes. Was that the good idea with the Tour de France coming up? No, probably not. But like, yeah, compared to 2 years ago, and he said this, he's like, I don't do dumb attacks anymore. You don't know how long your career can be. I've got to make the most of it. I think he's much more economical in races now. Like Tour of Flanders, he wasn't trying to flex on anybody exactly. At any point. He just followed Pog and then worked a little bit 50-50. He wasn't trying to like be the big man or whatever or drop him at any point. And then he just completely finessed him in the final, like backed himself. Like he played that strategically perfectly when he wasn't the strongest on Qualmont. He wasn't even the strongest guy in the race. He had the best sprint, which is super important. But yeah, on Qualmont, Pog was stronger. So I think in race, his strategy has improved a lot.
Okay, one more. I understand there's certain loyalties within this group. People are getting paid, whatever. Who's going to win the Cyclocross World Championship?
Who's competing in it? Is it Wout? Are the big three doing it?
I heard
yes.
Wout's
so they skip it.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I don't know. I don't know if Wout's committed yet or if he's going to be at an altitude camp. I don't know. All right.
I'm going to go with Wout if he's doing it. Yeah, I'm going to go with him.
Okay, Spencer.
I would love to say Wout. I once suggested Wout might be good at cyclocross, but in the days before Andrew, and I got 55 Instagram DMs from the cyclocross boys telling me I was an idiot and don't know ball because Van der Poel's better. But I
actually have no idea about cyclocross. I have no idea.
These are
you
gave
me three
waters. I think Pidcock. I don't know. I like this. I think he's the new kid on the block. I think the old guys are.
He's good on the punchier courses, right? And they're good on the heavy sand courses, the bigger boys.
Yeah, I think that's why he probably dominated it. Where is Worlds this year? That would be my next question. Do you know, Andrew?
If it's on a beach, I'm going with Van der Poel or Wout.
Boy, Spencer, you've caught me with I can't remember. I don't know. I'll tell you what though, I'm gonna go with Mathieu van der Poel. I think that he's aggrieved because of the incident at Road Worlds, for which he has now been exonerated apparently, and I think he wants the rainbow stripes the most out of those three athletes, even though they're all they're all game riders, they all are fighters, they all want to win worlds, but I think it means the most to Van der Poel, and I think he will fight the hardest for it unless he crashes on the cobbles again or injures his lower back, which is totally possible.
Then I have one more question. One more. Who's going to win the Tour in 2023?
Tour in 2023. If Ayuso was doing it, that would be my hot take. But he's doing the Vuelta.
Holy smokes, that is a hot take.
But he's doing the Vuelta, so I can't even say it. But I think, he would be lethal. My super hot take is Enric Mas, because I'm also a bit of a Movistar. I really like the teams that aren't perfect. Mas it's never been a better time for him. No high altitude, no TT, but I still have to go with Vingegaard. Yeah, I think Vingegaard will win. Roglic, the recovery, I don't know what's happening with him, but yeah, I'm going with Jonas just because I think there are some. Of course, there's no Col du Granon, but there's some really steep climbs, and there's much more climbing than this year's race. It's just spread out a bit more evenly, and I don't know where. I still worry about UAE's ability to control the starter stages. I'm not sure they fixed that problem. They if they got Stefan Kung, I would have been okay, that's Kung and Trentin. That's really powerful at the start, and Kung can climb too. Kind of fifth in Tour de Suisse, so he'll help you after some of the big climbs in the flat. but they didn't. So I'll go with Vingegaard.
Stefan Kuhn got top 5 at every race in 2022. It's a little known fact. There's not a race on the calendar that he was not close to the podium. Andrew, who do you think? Andrew's
came
not
top 10 in that Paris stage, the stage 8 that Simon Yates won. He's crazy.
He's like the best rider no one ever talks about. Andrew, you don't believe in Jonas. Do you think he's good? You actually said hot take one time that he was never even going to race the Tour again.
Yeah, I don't believe he'll race the Tour this year.
Okay,
that's a hot take.
Is molten lava. That's an interesting perspective that Jonas is the favorite for 2023. Now you kind of have me doubting my Pogacar.
Pog will be the favorite, I think, in the betting markets.
Yeah, favorite amongst.
Do you think?
No, yeah.
Do you reckon?
Pog will be the favorite for sure. I just meant internally our favorites in our hearts.
Yeah,
the most important place in professional cycling.
It's impossible to know. Like one of them might crash in Paris-Nice, and then it's just it's really impossible because better. Like you see Jonas on Solaison in Dauphiné, you're like, okay, well he's not crashing. Dauphiné, he's tuned up, he's looking good. Then you know how good the guy's going. Pog at Slovenia, it's harder to tell, but yeah, like who knows? Like so much can happen in 6-7 months. I know that's the boring opinion, but yeah, like so much can happen.
Sub question to that question. I got into a mini argument with Benji saying, his theory is that if Pog doesn't win the Tour every season, a season is a disappointment if he does not win the Tour de France. He could win Flanders, Lombardia, World Championships, 3 stages of the Tour. Like, do you think it's Tour or bust, Tour overall or bust for Pog in 2023?
I think for Ineos, Jumbo, and UAE, yeah. Every year you spend that much money on a team, that's the goal. And if your goal is to win the Tour, and I know it's very reductive, and of course there's other races, but like if you're really thinking like a high performance, like the goal is to win the Tour, we have to win the Tour. If you don't win it, yeah, it's like you can call it a bust or a failure, or you didn't meet your objective, whatever you want. But like, for those 3 teams, that should be the goal every year, with the money they're spending compared to the other teams or the talent they have.
Tadej Pogacar, I regret to inform you, you're a failure.
Well, it's like maybe they also did everything right to put themselves in the best position that year. Could Ineos have done any better this year in the Tour? Probably not.
Yes, I think
no. That was as good as it. That was an amazing ride from Geraint Thomas.
Alpe d'Huez stage with Pidcock and Thomas third, like it's pretty good.
I think it's I think from an outcome point of view, you're correct. From a process point of view, I think they absolutely could have executed better at the Tour. Would the result have been different in the end? No, but I think that it revealed fractures in the team that are disturbing.
Well, that's why Yates was gone, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was a bad teammate or anything, but they figured it didn't work. Whatever that dynamic was, it didn't work. So they were happy to let him go.
But Carapaz's 3rd place the year before papered over similar problems. That didn't work. You had Thomas.
That was much worse.
Yeah. So you might be right, Andrew.
There's a pattern here. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're kind of like a forest that it's not burning, so the undergrowth is keeping new trees from growing. It's like all these pretty good riders you talk about, but not the best are keeping riders from Luke Platt from developing into true leaders because they have like too many middle managers, basically.
They used to call it the Death Star. I think we're maybe one step away from seeing a rap video come out of their team camp. I think that they might join some of these other teams that are dropping rap videos.
Dark to think about.
Damn.
I love rap. I love hip hop, but I mean, I'm not sure that we need an Ineos rap video. We might see one though.
That's the death spiral. But yeah, it's like, okay, once Thomas and Rowe retire and Criado maybe Criado signed through 25. But yeah, like who's the leader? I guess someone else steps up. But yeah, they got Sivakov out of contract, Gegenhardt out of contract as well. It's a lot of these guys. Like, do you even want to give them the Tour opportunities? Because like Gegenhardt with no TT at the Tour, like, do you want to give them the opportunities if they leave? Or, it's, I think the best. They're doing what they can with all the chips on the table with Pidcock. I think that makes sense. They tried to get Remco, I think, or at least thought about it. Answer was no. So I don't really see what they could have done too differently this off-season. I think them letting Carapaz and what's that scene from Moneyball when Jonah Hill's in the car park? It's like, I think it's a good thing Johnny Damon's off your books. Like, I think that was a good thing, not to match their salaries, Carapaz and Yates, because they're not winning the Tour for you.
So I also have one more question. So I wake you up from a 6-month slumber. You fall asleep in August. You wake up in January, and I say Mark Cavendish is on Astana. Do you believe me? Do you think something has gone wrong? No,
for sure I believe you. Yeah, because Cav doesn't really care about the record. Cav cares about the record as much as it gets him a nice contract, I think. Like, if he really cared about the record, wouldn't there have been other better options that he would have already signed with? Like, because like I kept saying Ineos makes sense, but then I was like, why would that you're forgetting Ellingworth signed him at Bahrain McLaren, and that was a disaster. So like that's not happening again. And I was like, okay, so that's off. Like if he took 200K, some other team would have signed him with a better lead out. But of course he didn't. He obviously wanted more money, which he's entitled to. But he wasn't. I don't think his primary focus was go to best place to break the record, because why would you go to B&B in the first place? Like, why would you decide that in August?
Yeah, so you think it's just a keep cash and checks phase of the career?
Yep.
I hope the checks clear. That might be a problem at Astana.
Well, that's the risk. Yeah, I mean they got Lopez money now off the books, so they can presumably he gets a fair chunk of Lopez money or more. I don't know, but I mean they got Case Bowl and Siriitza as lead out. Like, it's not. There is someone to lead him out. There are humans to lead him out who are big, but it's also like that team's never gone before a stage with a strategy of how to do a lead out for a pure bunch sprint in a world tour race, let alone the Tour de France. So like there's no Tom Steele's a Quick Step or Ballerini, no, not Ballerini, but Bramati in the car who's going to map out exactly how it's going to play out, and it's going to be correct. So Cav's going to have to do that. Cav's going to have to coach, I think, the team on how we're going to play these stages, which probably a good thing, actually. Like you hear him talk about the stages afterwards, like he knows what he's doing, but that's a lot of responsibility for him. And I don't know if, it's going to be, I think he has a chance, but it's also the equipment too. Like he's gone from Spesh with all that to their equipment. That's a downgrade too.
Patrick, did you feel like it was a bit of a tell that Cavendish might be headed to Astana when he started spending time with former Astana rider and DS Lance Armstrong and Johan Brunel?
Nah, I think that was just a catch up. I think. I don't know.
Two guys with great, fantastic relationships with the Astana team.
I think that was just a catch up. I didn't even thought of that. But that was pre-Lopez. So unless like Vino had some like plan that he knew they were going to fire Lopez and that would open up Cav, and he started talks with Cav before firing Lopez. So he only fired Lopez when he knew Cav might come. Maybe. It was like all that happening. So no, I don't think so. I think it was like Lopez got fired and then he was like, B&B folded, because B&B might not have folded at that point either, so Cav might not have been available, although if his agent was doing his job, he would have been talking to other teams. I don't know. But I think more likely it was just reactive. Everyone's just reacting to things really last minute.
Fair enough. I have to point out that to engineer the joke/conspiracy theory that I just advanced, once I learned that Cav had signed with Astana, I had to go to Google because something in my brain was like, I think Lance rode for Astana, and I'd totally forgotten. And he in fact did in 2009, which
that was the Continental tour.
Yeah, I don't think
that was the great one.
It was
a great tour.
I'll never forget. Yeah, Lance coming back like, oh, this is so cool. Wait, what's Astana? Like, what is going on right now?
I remember I don't know if Contador would only take bid-ons or gels from like one guy on the team during that tour. There's so many great stories from that tour. And like I'm on neither rider's side. It's like when Contador got dropped in the crosswind stage, the stage Cavendish won incidentally on, I think, HTC. It's like too fucking bad. Like Lance made the split. A lot of GC guys, including you, didn't. Too bad. Like make the split if you have co-leaders. And simultaneously in the mountains, if Lance can't follow and Contador wants to gain time on Schleck or someone, too bad. That's racing. So it was great to watch. Like I've rewatched a fair few of those stages recently.
I've got that one on DVD. That's not going anywhere.
That's the best. Just plug and put in the DVD.
A sliding doors moment I always think about with that is, so what, Lance misses the yellow jersey by like a fraction of a second in the team time trial. If he gets yellow, does Contador, I guess the boring answer is
still
Contador
attack
still
him.
Attacks, but it like you could imagine like maybe he can't attack and he's this way better rider, but he can't attack his teammate and Lance wins that tour.
So I think Contador, Lance got signed after like late, right? Or for that season, I think when he came back, it was unsure if he was coming back. So I think Contador had been promised tour leadership from what I understand. So I think he wouldn't give a fuck. He'd just attack him. Now, whether there would literally have been like an on-bike bust up, maybe, or post-race, but I think Contador still attacks him. It's kind of like the Alpe d'Huez stage that, who's your man that won? Sastre? When he attacked Schleck in yellow. Yeah. Not attack, that was their plan, to work Evans over.
Schleck talk.
Yeah.
Shout out Schlecks.
That was great tactics, but like tough for Schleck because he probably still would have won the tour if Sastre just went on the front and rode tempo. But they were more likely to win the tour the way they did it.
And then that stage is incidentally why Armstrong came back in 2009, because he couldn't stand. This is off the record, everybody. Forget you heard this, but he couldn't stand that Sastre won the tour because he didn't consider him a very good rider.
He was kind of a pure climber, and Edge had a great day on Alpe d'Huez. But yeah, it's great strategy. Like I've watched that stage in full as well. The way they set it up with the way the Cancellara worked, as well as like a ruler in the mountains, really impressive. The way they played that stage, and listen, it's co-leadership. Like, has it ever, for like multiple years, been like a harmonious?
No.
Like, it's tough, like managing co-leadership. Because
Sastre kind of got run off that team a little bit. Is that he left to go to Cervelo?
Yeah.
After winning the tour,
I don't know if he got run off, but he left. And it's like the same thing, like Froome, Wiggins, and Thomas. Thomas is, that's why I love G. He's really has no ego. Like he will. Dauphiné let Port go last year. Catalunya let Yates go. He's not a guy that's like, I'm going to gain more in the TT. We ride Skytrain for me. I'm still going to win most likely. Like he's really embraced co-leadership with so many different riders. It's really impressive.
I'm going to throw something out there right now because this discussion is giving me an idea. I'm wondering if listeners would like to hear some kind of version of the rewatchables where we take a look at a classic stage, maybe get some of the riders or a rider who was an animator of that stage on the show and talk about it. If you think that would be cool, hit me on Twitter at Vontz, at VONTZ. You can hit Spencer at
BTP Cycling
or Patrick at
I think it's at Lanterne Rouge YT. That's for YouTube. So
now we have to do it because you said it.
Yeah.
Now it's out there. We have no choice.
I think that would be fun. Yeah.
I'm trying to hit up ASOs to be like, how much would it cost for me to put up the full Col de Grenelle stage on YouTube with like me doing a full like the 4.5 hours? Because I think it'd be super popular. Like
they should pay you, man.
Yeah, well, that's a separate.
Yeah, they should be paying you. We probably can't get into this. I had like a whole section on the ASO in here, but maybe that's an offline discussion.
Can you?
I have a good relationship with them. I think they actually get a bit of a bad rap. Like, and listen, I'm not. I pay them.
Are you on
They're
the
not paying-
payroll, Patrick?
No, I'm paying them.
Is there anything you want to disclose, man?
I'm paying them a lot of money is what I want to disclose, but I have a good business relationship with them, and they're one of the better people I've worked with in the cycling industry. But yeah, is there a nice market? Like, look at NFL. Didn't they put out that Minnesota game? I said it on the pod the other day. The crazy comeback where the score changed like 6 times. It was like maybe a month ago. The NFL put up at least the last quarter in full. They're like, fuck
yeah,
it,
they'll just
put
them up in full because they've
and they put Super Bowls up too.
Yeah,
and they're premium product. They will put the full Super Bowl on YouTube, and if they're doing it, like, there are some smart people working in NFL. Like, you know, that's with American sports. Don't second guess what the best sports leagues are doing in the media space. If they're growing their asset value to like ridiculous amounts of money, they're doing something right. They know what they're doing. Just copy it.
Well, I think they correctly deduced that it's like milk, right? It spoils so fast. Like, once the Super Bowl has happened, the value is decreased to a point where they don't mind giving it away for free. Same thing with, you know, if you were doing what you're doing with the NBA, you wouldn't have to pay them anything. You could just use as much of the game feed as you want.
I know it is all, yeah. that's a whole other like podcast, just talking about like media rights, the structure of the business, like how it works. But yeah, like I look at John Boy he doesn't pay a dime for rights, right?
No.
And I'm like, fucking hell. He's got like millions of investment based on just like using as much like of a premium top 4 in American sport for free. Now, maybe for full stage reviews, that argument doesn't hold up. He just takes interesting snippets. Maybe if he was doing full stage highlights, he would have to pay. I don't know. But yeah, it's a whole different world over there.
Well, you're welcome anytime. I'll talk to, I was right by the White House the other day, actually. I'll talk to Joe. I'll get it worked out so you can come over and live here if you want.
Maybe, yeah. I'll set up and start an NBA or NFL, or because like my channel, I kind of based on Coach Daniel, and he ended up working for the Dallas Mavericks. He did NBA analysis on YouTube, and then he actually just gave it all away because his end goal was to get an analyst job. I think he's given it away. So yeah, I just was like kind of copied his format and the Dunked On format.
Wasn't your Twitter bio like, maybe someday I'll stop watching cycling and you guys can screw off or something? Like, am I misremembering this?
Yeah, well, like maybe I'll get bored. I don't know. Like, it's possible. Like, you never know. I've changed industries really rapidly. Maybe I'll get bored. I mean, I'm working for Jumbo through 2024, so at least until then, I'm locked into cycling. And also the ASO agreement runs for a fair while too. So for now, locked into cycling. But maybe cricket in the future.
Yeah, we didn't get into this, but I did a bit of research, basketball and cricket coaching certifications. I noticed, Patrick.
Yeah, I was a basketball and cricket coach for like throughout the entirety of university for like 6 years, 5-6 years, and even coaching some like decent cricket teams too. So cricket's also like cycling in that it's kind of, if you didn't grow up with it, it's kind of impervious, and can be pretty boring and it's really long. So a lot of similarities there. And yeah, I really enjoyed coaching. So that's why the Jumbo Visma work it's really nice to do that sort of work, actually working with a team in a high performance environment, as opposed to always just sort of commenting on a race. It's nice to feel part of like a broader team.
Instead of like turning Jumbo Visma into a powerhouse and the best team today, would you, like, your boss, Richard Pluget, was just like a cycling media guy, and he bought that team probably for not very much money. Like, would you ever think about just buying the BNB license and then Lanterne Rouge Media is the sponsor of the team?
Too much admin, too much work. Like, I don't want to manage that many people, sponsorships. Like, you're doing, like, a lot of his job is sales, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not interested in it. My dream in like 4 years is to run Movistar's like race strategy, maybe, or FDJ. Like, imagine if you were the person that helped FDJ like win the Tour de France. Maybe I'd become popular in France. But yeah, like maybe that's a challenge, is more of an integrated role as opposed to being a consultant. But for now, it's like I get the best of both worlds in that I don't have to do any of the BS of like, I don't have to hand out a bid on, I don't have to manage anything or whatever. I don't have to fill in paperwork. I just like watch races, provide advice in different ways, and yeah, hopefully it's helpful. So it's kind of a good spot.
It's Spencer. I know they're not going to hold those courtside seats forever, but Patrick, I have to ask a follow-up question. I know you probably can't disclose specifics about the impact of your work with Jumbo, but have there been moments when you provided input, changes have been made, and you've been able to see a measurable difference in the outcome?
A few things Benji suggested in the classics, yeah, probably. Benji's stronger than me, I think, maybe in analyzing classics parkour. There are a few things. And in stage races, maybe a couple of things. It's hard because it's a process, right? Like you're not deciding race strategy the day before generally, or the day of for the tour. It's like it's months of preparation. So it's months of like getting together, talking through things, and but yeah, like a few things maybe, but also some other things where I said X, they did Y. Y ended up being way better many times. That happened too, which was humbling as well. So yeah, there are a couple of things I think, particularly in sprints. But yeah, it's fun, but it's at the end of the day they decide what strategy they're going to do, or how they're going to play it, who they're going to select, who they're going to sign. I just have my view on it, which I guess that's the benefit of like I've always on the podcast or whatever not been shy of saying my opinion, even if I don't have all the information. I try to say my opinion based on the available information, and I think that's been good because yeah, if you don't try to ever say anything critical or offend anyone, then in a team environment that's not helpful. If you're a consultant and they're like, oh, how do we do? And you're like, oh, everyone, good job today, unlucky. Like, that's not helpful. Yeah. So you got to be a little bit critical.
Okay, Patrick, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask if anyone in the Boulder amateur cycling community has attempted to engage you to provide analysis or direction for some of the events out at the Valmont Bike Park or any of the other action that's happening at that level.
Apart from Spencer, no, not too many people. No, I'm kidding.
Patrick's doing a deep dive on the bus stop group ride tactics, so I'm better prepared in 2023. I'm excited about the results.
It's awesome. Funny because like amateurs are probably more likely to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, or be like, you don't know, you don't understand this. Like, okay, but no, it's. A lot of people hit me up on Instagram more like, how can I go to World Tour? How can I get to World Tour? A lot of young guys. I try to be helpful with that, which is like, it depends on what country you're in, what your financial situation is, what languages you speak. There is no one format. Like if you speak fluent French and you got a Schengen passport, then and you're young, you go to one of those amateur French teams. And if you perform, you will get picked up by a French World Tour team. Like they will pick you up. So that's easy. And then if you're in North America, Australia, it is a lot. Well, no, compared to being in North America or Australia, like then it's a lot of tougher road.
Yeah, no, I agree. You want to speak French, Schengen passport. I assume that's, like Matteo Jorgensen. I would love, how did he end up on Movistar? I assume he just spoke Spanish from a young age, or maybe he just jumped in that team.
Nah, I don't reckon. Spanish. Not all the guys that are not Spanish speak Spanish that well on that team. I think Matteo speaks good Spanish now. I don't know. I have to look through his results. I think he did well in L'Avenir, maybe. But Movistar, for some reason, in 2020, someone decided to start signing 6'3" people with Scandinavian names. Seriously. Norsgaard, Jorgensen, Holman, and Johan Jacobs. They're not all Scandinavian, but like they all just decided to sign all these same riders. It's like, but Matteo's really good. I'm excited to see what he can do.
This actually comes from your part of the world. Matt White, I don't know if he pioneered this. He's the first person I heard to talk about it publicly, but they would build their teams. Bike Exchange would build their Grand Tour teams around the height of the domestiques. So the idea was you get a short Yates behind like 4.63 guys. Sounds simple, right? Because they're breaking more wind for you. But I didn't hear anyone ever mention this before Matt White did.
I know about that. I think we've seen sort of the bike change with Nathan van Hooijdonk and Jonas in the Roubaix stage of the Tour de France, that sometimes you might want the guys to be the same size. Like, yeah. So I think, I think about that for sprints, for climbs. I don't know about that.
I guess
for sprints is really important.
Yeah, it'd be like, especially at the Giro. I think the Giro is 90%. You're just riding around on a flat road, or that's the way it's been the last few years. And then if you're not doing if you're just totally protected, then you're stronger on the climbs when the big boys have been dropped.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of, I'm not sure there's a much benefit when you're cruising around 150 watts. Like if the guy's 6'2" or 5'10", like I don't really see that. I think it maybe is important in the final, but yeah, like for example, Jonathan Milan, I think could be a super lead out because he's like 6'4", 85 kilos, aggressive, like built like a truck. So like it's a huge pocket behind him, like Roger Kluger. And it's sort of someone like Richese is the really unusual, someone 5'9" who can have a long career as a last man.
How big is Morkov? I guess he's Danish, so I assume he's tall.
About 6 foot.
6 foot.
About 6 foot, maybe 6'1". But he's big too. He's like 82 kilos, like big ass. Like he provides a good pocket. Same with Laporte. He's huge.
Patrick, have you ever heard anyone on the sports science side talk about the importance of a rider's shoulder to hip ratio for their aerodynamics?
I'm sure like Bigham knows all about that for like TTs. For road stages, that's the thing, because like, is someone going to put like 150,000 salary rider who does second last man in the lead out in a wind tunnel? Probably not. Maybe they are. But yeah, for lead outs, I'm not sure it's that well understood the difference that even if he's skinny and is only 77 kilos, but he's like super wide, like Danny Van Poppel, again, brick shithouse and the best last man this year. Like, I think there must be something there. Like, there must be. Whereas, like, when Remco does lead outs, it looks like he's doing a good job, but is he? Because, like, maybe he's putting the guys behind it. He's the other end of the spectrum from a Van Poppel, right? Maybe he's just actually putting everyone in the bin, including his own teammates.
I mean, sometimes they're getting gapped off of his wheel. I mean, I guess if he's so aerodynamic, it stands to reason.
He gapped Lampard.
That the wind
he has no draft
going behind him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's why I look at someone like Milan. I'm like, you're never going to be a top tier sprinter, but you have all the characteristics of a really good lead out. Traditionally, a team will try and make you a top tier sprinter for the next 5 years. It won't work out, like Case Bowl. He's now 28. How about you skip that phase and you lean into being a classics rider, a top tier last man? You can work on, like, if he leaves Bahrain, his prologue should be good on a TT bike, and he might have a more fulfilling career than coming 6th and 7th in sprints.
Man, yeah, we're gonna have to do another podcast. That's all pretty interesting stuff you just touched on, particularly Bahrain's.
I want to do an American podcast. I'll talk about, like, what's Quinn Simmons going to do? Where's Jorgensen going to go? Is he going to read? Like, there's the whole American podcast we talked about, because it's like a pretty exciting time for all the young guys.
Will we see human powered health at the Tour? Will Scott McGill be on a podium?
Nah, they're not going.
If Scott McGill gets to the Tour, he might win the whole thing. If the guy
anything's possible,
gets a professional nutritionist, he might be the best rider in the world.
Anything's possible. But yeah, I think X might beat them out.
Yeah, I think that's a team I'm actually really excited to see at the Tour.
Yeah.
As long as I hope I don't get kicked out of the country for saying that, but I would love to see Uno X at the Tour.
Human Powered Health might get the Giro. I think that's really a decent chance, but because Lotto turned it down, if Uno X don't get it, then maybe them. Oh, Nabi Bardiani, Israel will stump up cash that Human Powered Health won't have. I don't know.
And the Giro will just straight up accept cash. The Giro, this is another podcast, like, is not doing well. Like, the Tour's starting their race in 2024 in Italy. It's like, well, that's kind of
that was announced today, right? Yeah,
stepping on the Giro a little bit. Like, when you watch the Giro,
pretty brutal.
It feels like it's still COVID. Like, there's just like no one on the sides of the roads. It's really depressing.
It's pretty brutal. If you're RCS seeing like premium cities, like what is it, Florence, Bologna, Turin, cities with money, and they're paying ASO to bring the Tour there for 3 stages.
That hurts.
Tough.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah,
actually can't. I'm sure it's happened, but in the modern era, I don't think I've seen a Grand Depart in a kind of step on another Grand Tour's toes like that. It's kind of a power play from ASO.
The only ones like the Tour starting in the Basque Country this year, but that's kind of, it's the Basque Country. It's a little bit different. It's not like starting in Madrid, you know.
But they own the Vuelta too, so it's like brother sister.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a big play. Like, I wonder, maybe Venue might have some spicy quotes about it.
And then,
I can't wait.
God, I'm never going to get to this game. But 2024 Tour ends in a time trial. Are you guys excited about that? Not excited about that. Do you like the last stage in Paris?
I mean, it already kind of has ended in a time trial for the last few years, right?
Yep.
It's just like, then there's just the Champs-Élysées stage, and then you go home. Now you just go home instead of watching a sprint another day. It'd be cool to see it in Nice. I hope it's not too sketchy, because they had that stage 1 that Christophe won in 2020 was in Nice. It rained, and that was a disaster. They can't control the weather, obviously, but yeah, I think it's quite a hard TT. Don't they go up? I think they have a decent. It's hard to have extended flat in Nice.
Yeah, I think it's
if you go anywhere off the coast road.
Yeah, I think it's like Monaco to Nice maybe, and it's not along the coast, so it must be really hard.
Yeah, they'll do some decent like 6% climbs, 5K. I reckon there'll be a 5K 6% climb in it, maybe 6K 7% even. So that'll be tough. But yeah, I don't, because they go, the Grand Depart in Italy goes to Turin, and then the next city along is like Nice. So like, where will they go? But they're finishing in Nice. So will they like loop up, I presume, to the Alps in like stage 5? Because it wouldn't make sense to go up to Alsace-Lorraine where they always go and then go back down to the Alps. Maybe they will. I don't know. But that's a little bit weird.
It's the least watchable way to end a race. And going back to your point, Patrick, about how American professional sports and others like F1, I think, do a great job of foregrounding the media side of what they're doing. I think that the worst decision you could make for ending a Grand Tour is to have it be a time trial. I think
on a primetime Sunday.
Yeah, actually, I would say that's the second worst way you could have it end. The worst way you could have it end is have a time trial in which riders switch bikes.
I love that.
I think
I totally disagree.
Like if the Drive to Survive Tour de France series succeeds, which I think it will, gets more people into the sport, and they then get stuck with this bike change in a time trial in 2024, they're leaving. I think we're going to see some churn with those fans.
I mean, the Giro TT there's going to be some funny bike changes in the Giro TT this year. The one is 4Ks 15%, like in that TT. Maybe people will start on road bikes, honestly. Like, and then the Tour de France TT, that's like, there's going to be a lot of work going into figuring out that one, because there's like multiple extended long steep climbs, but none are like, not one super long one. And then there's flat in between and some descents. So it's like really tough to know. We might see some real shithousery in the Tour this year. I think if they don't have a designated change point, I think it's going to be like every team will have a different way of doing it. And it could be comedic, but I don't think you want your main event to be comedic. Which is kind of your point.
All right. Well, thanks, Patrick, so much for volunteering.
No worries.
Your time, being so generous with it. Thanks, Andrew, for joining us again. And I hope everyone enjoyed our convo. We'll definitely be doing this again. If we can nail you down, we got to do the American podcast. We got to do why is Bahrain, why are their bikes so slow? What's going on over there? So I hope everyone enjoyed the conversation, and talk to you soon.
This is Andrew. Thank you for listening to Choose the Hard Way. If you enjoyed this episode, there's never been a better time to share it with a friend who has a growth mindset. Wherever you listen, please subscribe, hit 5 stars, and leave a positive review so more people can find the inspiring stories that my guests share. You can sign up for the newsletter at choosethehardway.com to get the story behind these stories, episode updates, and more. Choose the Hard Way is a Big Truck production. It is produced and edited by Anthony Palmer at Palm Tree Pod Co. Shout out to Emily Miles for digital support. The content for this show is created by me, Andrew Vance.